You've seen this image. It looks like a painting. It isn't. It's a model, built from satellite measurements and instruments dragged behind ships, run at fine enough resolution to resolve individual whirlpools in the open ocean. And what it shows isn't a body of water sitting still. It's a machine. Water that sinks off the coast of Antarctica this winter will come back to the surface in the North Pacific in roughly 1,000 years. A plastic bottle dropped into the sea off Los Angeles ends up in one of 5 specific places. Neither of those is a coincidence. It's circulation, and it runs on 2 things, wind and salt. Start at the surface, because that's the part the wind drives. Every swirl you can see here is an eddy, a rotating mass of water somewhere between 100 and 300 kilometers across, holding its shape for weeks or months as it drifts. There are thousands of them at any moment. They aren't noise in the data. They're how heat and carbon actually get moved around the planet, not in smooth rivers, but in a chaotic field of slow whirlpools. The large flows are bigger still. The Gulf Stream alone transports about 30 million cubic meters of water every second. That is more than every river on Earth combined, by more than a factor of 10. And we couldn't see any of this properly until satellites could measure the height of the sea surface precisely enough to infer what was moving underneath. The ocean had weather the entire time. We just had no way to watch it. Now watch what that does to anything floating. These white dots are real. They're scientific drifter buoys that NOAA has been releasing into the ocean for over 30 years, tracked by satellite. If you release them all at once and let the currents carry them, they don't scatter. They collect. Over a few thousand days, almost all of them migrate into 5 regions, and they stay there. NASA ran the same experiment inside a computer model, releasing particles evenly across the whole ocean. Same 5 regions. Those 5 are the subtropical gyres. They're what you've heard called the garbage patches, and the name is misleading because there is no island of rubbish. It's mostly a thin soup of fragments spread across an area you could never photograph. But the mechanism is exactly what you're watching. Wind and the Earth's rotation push surface water inward, and anything that floats goes with it. The ocean isn't collecting plastic. It's collecting everything, and plastic is simply the part that doesn't rot. Every current we've looked at eventually hits a continent. The Gulf Stream turns east and breaks against Europe. The Kuroshio bends away toward the Aleutians. Land redirects them, splits them, sends them back. There's one exception. At around 60 degrees south, there's no land at all, no continent, no island chain, nothing but open water the whole way around the planet. And in that gap sits the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, the largest current on Earth, moving well over 100 million cubic meters a second, more than 4 times the Gulf Stream. The gap it squeezes through between South America and Antarctica is the Drake Passage. With no land to stop the wind, swell builds with nothing in its way, and it produces some of the roughest water anyone has ever sailed. That current does something important. It wraps the entire continent, and it keeps warmer. Water from the north from reaching it. Antarctica sits inside a moat of its own cold water. Here's the part almost nobody knows about. Every autumn, the ocean around Antarctica starts to freeze, and it keeps freezing outward for 6 months. At the February minimum, there's about 3 million square kilometers of sea ice. By September, there's around 18 million, an area larger than the continent itself, appearing and disappearing every year. It's thin. Most of it is a meter or 2 thick. This is not the ice sheet, which sits on land and runs kilometers deep. This is the sea itself freezing, and when seawater freezes, it does something strange. It leaves its salt behind. The ice that forms is nearly fresh. The salt gets rejected into the water underneath, which becomes saltier, denser, and heavier than everything around it. So it sinks, straight down the continental slope, all the way to the bottom. That is the engine. Not a pump. Not a pressure system, just cold, salty water being heavier than the water beneath it. The water that sinks off Antarctica becomes the densest water in the ocean, and it fills the deep basins of the entire planet, spreading north along the seafloor under everything. Down there, it's a few degrees above freezing, under enormous pressure, in permanent darkness. And it is not empty. Corals grow on rock thousands of meters down, feeding on what drifts past. That water moves slowly. It takes centuries to cross an ocean basin. Eventually, it mixes upward and returns to the surface, mostly in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, and rejoins the wind-driven currents we started with. Start to finish, the loop takes on the order of 1,000 years. Water that sank while Europe was in the early Middle Ages is surfacing now. Surface currents, gyres, the circumpolar current, sea, ice, the deep return. It isn't 5 separate systems. It's one, and every part of it depends on the others. We've mapped this in detail for about 40 years, which is nothing compared to how long it takes the system to turn over once. We're watching one frame of something that cycles on a scale longer than recorded history. If you want the short versions of any of this, they're on the channel. The ocean's weather, the Drake Passage, the sea ice. New science every few days. Sources on screen. Slower than the rest. Falling pitch through the sentence. A clear pause before it begins, and let the final 2 words settle rather than clip.